Today, we're very fortunate to be working with Chef Paul Aceto. He has been a Miami chef for 20 plus years, working with some really great and some famous people that maybe he'll be able to share a little bit with us. But we're excited. This is part one of a four-part series. They'll take place every Monday at 2 p.m. So if you're joining us today, I hope you will join us for the other sessions with Chef Paul. And today we're going to take a little look at an old favorite, mac and cheese, and we're going to put a little twist to make it a little healthy. So, Chef, we're so excited. We're ready.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Chef Paul Aceto here. Super excited. It's a pleasure to work with AARP today. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to be doing healthy recipes by myself with some shortcuts, some tricks, and we're going to have fun. That's the most important part. So let's get started. We're going to do a healthy mac and cheese today. Gluten-free, also vegan because I substituted some of the dairy cheese we're going to use in the recipe. Write down your questions, any comments. We're going to get through it, and here we go. So first we want to make the cheese sauce. Most important part to start. We're going to start with a quick little roux. Now, what's a roux? It's basically just a bit of gluten-free flour that we're using today to substitute. 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And some fat. You can use olive oil. I like to use this organic veggie spread, which is like the olive oil spreads that you can use. This always works good too, and also keeps the calories down. All right. So 1 tablespoon of the vegetarian butter. And then we stir this around, we melt, as you can see from above. We're just going to stir this for about 3 or 4 minutes till it incorporates. And there we go. All right. While that's melting, we are going to add a little bit of salt in our water. We always want to add a little bit of flavor. And we are going to blanch our cauliflower. Okay? 3 to 4 minutes, not too long. We just want to get a head start on it before we put it in the oven. So 4 cups of cauliflower. 3 to 4 minutes. While that's cooking, we're going to go back to our little roux. And this is going to help thicken the cheese sauce to the right consistency. Now, some of the benefits. You want to talk about some added benefits for our cauliflower. High in fiber, high in water content, which is great for weight loss. Also, high in antioxidants. Helps, is very beneficial in reducing inflammation. So that's another important factor when you're using cauliflower in any of our dishes. All right, this roux is coming together. As you see, you don't want to burn it because it's got the flour. You want to let it go nice and slow for 3 to 4 minutes till it starts turning like a pale yellow color. All right? All right. Happy to be here. This is going to be fun. Tune in next week, too. We have another amazing recipe that we are going to do with, well, I'm just going to have to tell you after you log in, so it's going to be fun. I cut the cauliflower heads really small because it's a quicker, anytime you cut them down, the florets in the cauliflower, they'll cook quicker. And we are going to take this out in a minute, and that'll be nice and soft. So this roux is looking good. Now, instead of the dairy, today I'm using coconut milk. You can use almond milk, lactose-free milk if you don't want to use real dairy. So today we're going to use coconut milk, but feel free to substitute any milk product that you wish. Works good. All right, now we're going to stir this milk and roux together just so it starts to thicken before we add our cheese. Okay, we preheated the oven to 375 degrees. I like to use convection. We'll let this come to a boil. Let's talk a little bit about our cheeses today. Fresh mozzarella, cheddar, you can substitute any cheese you want. Again, these are vegan cheeses. You have to try different brands. Some are better than others, might I say, but I found a really good one. And any of your Whole Food or Fresh Markets carry this cheese as well. And this is strictly vegan. So it's a good alternative for people trying to lose weight. It's gluten-free, and this is just substituting the cauliflower for the pasta. So it's a great alternative. Now, my secret ingredient when we're making this cheese sauce, nutmeg. Classic in Italian cooking when you're making a white lasagna. We're going to add a little bit to the milk and a teaspoon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Nutmeg is great, rich in antioxidants, anti-inflammatory properties. It's great in sweet and savory flavors as well to add to this dish. All right. If you see from above, we have this coconut milk starting to thicken. Very nice. Let's keep seasoning. We always want to season, it's very important. A little salt, a little pepper. Now it's coming together nicely. So a little bit about my background. 20 years as an athlete, collegiate athlete, wrestler and soccer player. Dieting was always a big part of my childhood. It's probably where I became a chef because I was always starving myself, cutting weight for wrestling in high school. But it's very important, especially the older we get. It's all about moderation and variation. I've probably cooked every diet known to man for the last 20 years, and they're always set up for failure, as in they're not long-term. The key to long-term is a good Mediterranean diet, in my opinion, and also a little variation of everything. Calories in and calories out. And more importantly today than the recipe itself is about keeping your body and mind in movement, especially in today's time with the pandemic and the virus. It's so important to keep your body moving and trying new things, whether it's in your diet or in your physical activity daily. We turn the heat down a little bit. This is looking good. All right, starting to get thick. Now we're going to put some of the mozzarella, say half a cup, and let's do a half a cup of the cheddar, vegan cheddar, and we're going to reserve the rest to put on top and at the end. The heat is turned down. Beautiful. So we're going to let that simmer another minute while that cheese thickens. And then we're going to take our nice spider strainer, and we are going to remove these are done, these popcorn cauliflower, as I like to call them, draining off all the excess water. Also with vegetables, when you blanch vegetables, you don't want to overcook them because you lose a lot of the vitamins and minerals in the water. So it's closest to a raw diet as possible when eating vegetables to retain all your important vitamins and minerals. Again, you can substitute broccoli, you can substitute other veggies if you want to try this dish out. I like cauliflower because it ends up being a nice creamy texture as if you're eating the real deal with mac and cheese. All right, so this is nice. This is coming thick. Now we're going to pour this right over the top of the cauliflower. Look at that. We're going to give it a stir. Beautiful. This will continue to thicken in the oven. A little bit more salt, a little bit more pepper. There we go. All right. Now in a casserole, just a little bit of olive oil, say a tablespoon, just so it doesn't stick. And then we are going to dump this mixture into our casserole dish, like so. Look at that. You can smell this right now. Amazing. Wow. Now a little bit more cheese before we go in the oven, half a cup. Same thing with our cheddar, nice and bubbly You don't have to feel so bad since we're using vegan cheese. And then also, I like to add a little bit more crunch because I like lots of textures when I'm cooking, is Japanese panko breadcrumbs. These are just nice and airy, makes your dish a little bit more crispy. How easy is this? I'd say half a cup just to cover. Gorgeous. All right, we're ready to go. Into a preheated 375-degree oven. Gorgeous. All right, while that's baking away, I would say 20 to 25 minutes. Just look at the color, nice and golden brown is what we're looking for. And in the meantime, with the magic of TV, we had one done in advance. And this is what it looks like. Gorgeous, nice and bubbly. And if you want to impress your friends, you want to put a little garnish on there. We're going to chop a little green onions or chives with some flavor. Being careful not to cut yourself. Look at that. Sprinkle that on top like that. Look at that. Gluten-free vegan mac and cheese, full of minerals, vitamins. It's amazing. And of course, we always have to taste test. Look at that. Impress your friends. They wouldn't even know it's not macaroni. It's cauliflower. Look at that. So, we have some questions going on there. Beautiful.
Chef Paul, it's Yvette. I'm back again. So, I want to say thank you, first of all, because I am one of those people that had to go gluten-free because of sensitivity I have because of a chronic illness that I deal with. So I really appreciate being able to see this amazing mac and cheese, because I miss mac and cheese. When you're on a restricted diet, you kind of miss some of this stuff. And Linda Hunter, who's on our Facebook, she said she sees the list of ingredients, but will you post the recipe steps?
Of course, through my Instagram. If you can go to @Chef Paul Aceto on my IG, we can post this recipe today. And also take any other questions for substitute ingredients. If we have any allergies or dietary restrictions, we can always modify this diet, as we said, for a future use. And yeah, for sure, we can post this.
And Chef Paul, I know that in our conversations, you had mentioned that you like to support local, farmers markets. Can you share a little bit about maybe where you pick up your ingredients? I know for me, the panko was sometimes hard to find in gluten-free, in particular,
Yes.
but I've searched out a couple of places, and sometimes I get lucky in Publix or in Walmart even, or in Whole Foods. So can you share any tips about where we might find some of these ingredients?
Right. So as a private shopper, a private chef, I'm in supermarkets, as you can imagine, every day, sometimes 2 to 3 per day. And it all depends. Some say Whole Foods is better or Fresh Market, but for me, I like the best product, the freshest. If I'm not going to the farm itself, down in South Florida to the farm, then I am shopping around for pantry items, like you were mentioning, the gluten-free breadcrumbs. With the access to Amazon now, you can always order and keep it in the pantry for months without it going off if it's not fresh produce. So I order some of my sushi rice when I make sushi, or other pantry olive oils through Amazon, just because I need it and I want to make sure it's at my house or at my client's house. But yeah, Publix or any of your grocery stores can carry the gluten-free brand, but it's hit or miss. You have to, shop around. So they don't always have it, and then you got to go to another store. But I love that the little crunch in there. So that it's a lot better for you with dietary too. Using regular breadcrumbs becomes crunchier and doesn't become as soggy either.
Absolutely. And we have a couple more questions from Facebook. Laura Kersey says, wow, so helpful. And she also asked whether carrots would work in this case.
Yeah, they would work. You would just have to shred them or blanch them longer because carrots take longer to cook than the cauliflower. So if you have a box grater or a mandolin, you can shave them. I always use combination cooking. And what does that mean? I love to pre-blanch vegetables before I throw them in the oven or to the grill. Just because if you put a whole carrot or a cauliflower in the grill or in the stove, it's going to take a lot longer to cook. So everything's timing in the kitchen, and it cuts your time by half just by putting a big pot of water on. Even if you're doing vegetables in this pot, you can also utilize it, and I use it for veggie stock. So I like to nappe or put, flavor the veggie stock. When it's done, I freeze it in ice cube trays. So it's another little chef tricks that we use when we don't have to buy store stock. So we save money on purchasing stocks and just using our vegetable water, which is very flavorful.
Chef Paul, that's such a great tip. I've actually done that for my puppy as a way to get him to eat some of the food when she gets a little too picky. But we have another question from Facebook from Teresa Del Rio. She said, can you repeat your last name? Because I think she's out there looking you at Instagram. And she says there's a lot of Chef Pauls, and that can't be.
Yeah.
There's only one Chef Paul from Miami.
There's only one chef. So if it's Chef Paul Aceto is my American, but I'm Italian, American Italian. And if you're going to say in Italian, it would be Paolo Aceto, which is like the balsamic vinegar, Aceto, Aceto. But it's Paul Aceto, and it's just Chef Paul Aceto, Aceto is the Instagram, just my name with chef in front.
Okay, and so we have another question from Ms. Deborah Grace, and she asked, can you use nutritional yeast homemade cheese instead of the vegan cheese?
You can. You'll have a different texture and flavor profile, but they have the nutritional yeast as well. Also for the flour, a lot of questions about using non-gluten-free flour. Another additive is xanthan gum. If you ever heard of xanthan gum, it's a binder or thickening agent. You can use a tablespoon of that and equivalent to 3 cups of flour. So if you want to thicken up the cheese sauce, you can use xanthan gum as well as a thickening agent.
Now, we also have a question from Facebook from Miss Marie Stark, and she said, what is dairy-free cheese made of exactly?
Vegetable shortening. So no dairy product, made of vegetable extracts or the oils that come from vegetables. They produce it, and it has absolutely no dairy, and it's vegetable based. So like a vegetable shortening.
Okay, so
butter.
So I just learned, Deborah mentioned, Deborah Grace, who asked the question about the nutritional yeast. That was actually something I learned about fairly recently, but apparently is an ingredient that's very popular with folks who are vegan. So for people who might be like me and learning about xanthan gum and nutritional yeast, can you tell us again, like, where is that in the dairy aisle, or should we all be going on Amazon and, ordering online as well?
Amazon would be great if you need it real quick with Prime. But usually in the baking section for like xanthan gum, in the flours section for the baking ingredients. As far as the cheeses, usually kept in the vegan cheeses are kept in the deli freezers next to the milk and or in the specialty products. And you have to, like I said, test through the different products because some, in my opinion, aren't so great. So you have to experiment and try the ones that you like. And I found a good one, I believe it's called Goya Life. That's a very good brand. But again, you have to, it's all testing and experimenting with the ones that you're comfortable with and that you like.
Awesome. I think that's important, what you just said, experimenting. And this is another reason why AARP is doing these AARP Wellness Mondays, because we want people, if we're home, unfortunately, we're all still struggling under this pandemic and kind of trying to stick closer to home and looking at ways to keep our minds and our bodies, as healthy as we possibly can. And so mac and cheese has been a comfort food for folks. And so this is a way to put that healthy spin on it so that we can still enjoy the foods that we love, but you know, that we keep that healthy spin on it. And oh, look, it looks like Teresa del Rio, she found you. She says, I'm sure there's only one like him, and now I found him. So thank you. We also have a comment from John Weiner. He's actually a volunteer with AARP South Florida, and he says this looks very easy to prepare. So thank you for that, for making it look easy. That's what it looks like when a chef is doing it in that fabulous kitchen. So
Yeah, very
Chef
blessed.
Paul, I mean, I know we didn't go into that, and any tips for presentation? I actually have a girlfriend who we've been cooking more, and we've been actually Zooming with each other while we're cooking, and she beats me every time at presentation. She makes the simplest meals look like a 5-course amazing dish because she just presents it nicely. Any tips you think you have for something like that?
Yeah, people always eat with their eyes, right? They're always, as a child, my mom said, "Oh, eat your broccoli, but if you make it look fancy and stuff, maybe you'll eat it." But that and the other trick is you hire me, I come to your house, and we're going to beat your friend in competition, and we're gonna show you all the tricks. 20 years, so yeah, that was
Sounds like a plan.
yeah, no, I mean, I'd love to do it. But I guess since I was 15 and working in over 20 restaurants and hotels and in places around the world, in Europe and in the States, you just learn different techniques and ways of presenting. But as a chef, everyone's always saying we use the simplest ingredients and we want to let the food speak. But and I'm speaking as myself as a younger chef, and also for others, that you always are trying to add more sauces and more flavors in this. But at the day, you're trying to figure out what you're eating. So, and I always go back to my roots in Italian and Mediterranean cooking is that simple, great products done simply and less manipulation of the product gives you the best product. And as far as presentation, there's little microgreens you can get at Whole Foods, edible flowers. I always have a basket of herbs, fresh cilantro, thyme, rosemary, basil that you can also add. A little olive oil, a little lemon juice. In the next couple episodes, we're going to be talking about acids and fats, using the good ones in our recipes, and very important to balance the recipe. And remember, recipes are just a basic theory, but I don't even like to follow them when I'm baking. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all about texture and feel, and also knowing the confidence. Making this dish maybe 3,000 times, I get really good at making it without a recipe. But those presentation techniques, we're going to go through that, and we're gonna win that challenge with your friend.
Excellent. We have a couple of more questions that are coming
Beautiful.
through on Facebook. I have Miss Erica Knowles. This may be a reference back to what you were talking about earlier in terms of some of the products. She asked if, by the way, Erica Knowles is a partner and has worked very closely with AARP on many different things. So hello, Erica. Thank you for stopping in and watching. But she was wondering, what brands do you prefer? Are there any particular brands that you like? In terms, I guess, this is a vegan meal. You're talking pasta. Like, do you have any favorite brands?
Um, off the top of my head, for pasta brands, and I'm trying to remember, it starts with a G. Whole Foods sells it. Um, you'll see it at Whole Foods. It's more of a darker. It looks like durum wheat. They take longer to cook, but here's the biggest thing to take from the brands when you're using these brands is to undercook them. The point, just for instance, say using pasta, gluten-free pasta. If you overcook it, you all know it turns to mush and it doesn't taste very appetizing. So you have to be very careful to undercook it, because you have carryover cooking, meaning 3 more seconds, it stays hot. So you want to make sure it's al dente when you're using the gluten-free products or pasta more than regular ones, just because you have such a small window for it to overcook. And again, experimenting and trying out different ones. But if you have good product and you use that, then you can make anything taste good.
Awesome. Oh, Erica actually just chimed in and said she was especially curious about the vegan cheese brands.
The vegan cheese, give me 1 second. I am going to get the name for sure. Gaia is one of them, or Daiya, but wasn't a fan of that one, and I've tried it. This one, Whole Foods provided, VioLife, that was it. VOI. There's a product placement, but this one, 100% vegan, by far the most fabulous one I've used in a long time. Also, when you're using gluten-free or vegan products, especially in baking, with the keto diet, they use the sugar substitutes and stuff like that. They're not very good with heat soluble, meaning baking cookies and cakes. You have to really modify the recipe because they don't have the glutens or strands to pull together when you're using baking dishes. So you have to always really use a recipe when you're doing the sweet dishes in the baking.
Great. And let's get to a couple of more questions. We have Kathy Avedi. I'm killing her last name. So I'm so sorry, Kathy. Forgive me. Avidikian. She wants to know, would mustard powder add a nice zest to this, and would you be able to add it?
It would. Mustard powder is great. If you're not using Dijon, which most chefs in all high-end kitchens use Dijon mustard, but I use it when I'm doing my meat spices for chicken. I go through the trifecta, I call it, the cumin, paprika, and dry mustard, and I use that religiously on like the Holy Trinity when I'm seasoning my meats. Not so much fish because it's more delicate, but definitely chicken. Dry mustard's great. And with the vegetables, it would be another flavor. It's great. You can't go wrong with that, and it's not overpowering like garlic or onions. So that'd be a great substitute.
Great. And I think what I'm starting to sense, or what I'm starting to hear, is that part of the joy of cooking, or maybe is kind of like experimenting and trying different seasonings, or maybe trying different things just to put a new twist on an old favorite.
It is, and I'm always thinking of, as both my parents are teachers from my childhood, and I'm always thinking of how can I learn. I hear you say spices and stuff. The biggest no when it comes to spices is the ones that you have in your pantry. Throw them out. They don't last long. So if you're gonna keep them over a month, you want to use fresh spices, and that's why I always say herbs are the best ones. But for dry spices, I have my go-to, my garlic powder, my onion and cumin and paprika. But if you haven't used some of the spices like most people do, in their pantries for over a year, throw them away because they're really not adding any beneficial to using expired spices in your pantry. We all like to hoard the pantry, the spice cabinet, but yeah, fresh is always better. And if you have to use, make sure you check the date, or for a couple bucks, just buy some new ones.
Well, I was going to compliment you, Chef Paul, and say you said cilantro like a Latino, which I'm sure is like that's your Italian in you that was able to say it.
I'm the coolest gringo in Miami. What do you want? I've been here 20 years, so.
But this is probably another show, but I literally just started a garden with rosemary and sage and thyme, and I've got a few more going, and my cilantro unfortunately died out with the heat. But that's another cool thing for people to try and do from home now that we're actually staying home. And we have a couple of more questions. There's Linda Hunter, who's saying she's looking forward to the next session. It's Mondays at 2. These are going to be happening for the next 3 consecutive Mondays, every Monday at 2. And then Leona Schuler, who is, oh my goodness, one of my most favorite people in the world. And I have all sorts of favorite people, but Leona is a former New Yorker who now lives in Florida as well. And she said, hello, Chef Paul. And she said, thanks for this. And she said, can you please repeat the ingredients for the roux?
The roux is just equal parts fat and flour, or olive oil and gluten-free flour, or a vegan butter or vegetarian butter and flour. And it would be a tablespoon of butter to 3 tablespoons of gluten-free flour. And that's what you want to cook it 5 to 6 minutes, no more, just until it starts turning a pale yellow. Very simple ingredients, but you can use olive oil if you don't have butter, and any kind of fat. But basically, in technical terms, it's fat and flour to thicken your sauce.
Awesome. And I see you have some pretty vegetables in a bowl there. We use the cauliflower, which the cauliflower has kind of been I think probably one of the vegetables that's gotten the most use lately, with folks using it for even pizza crusts. And I just saw something recently for, you used the expression popcorn cauliflower, and a friend of ours was doing a video on how she did popcorn cauliflower with plátano chips as the breading. So
Beautiful,
are
beautiful.
there any other vegetables like that that you suggest that it could either be added to this or used instead of?
Yes, so you take mac and cheese, but you look at it as a casserole or a lasagna, and I love to make vegetarian lasagnas. Again, I pre-cook slices of zucchini, eggplant, tomatoes, and make layered dishes like a vegetarian lasagna, but you use the same cheese sauce to put over the top and then bake that. So that's very delicious too. Sort of like a mock on a ratatouille if you're going to use tomato sauce. But there's so many, they say there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but in the kitchen, we can go on and do 100 episodes on cauliflower, but we'll have to wait for the next episode for that one.
Gotcha. Okay, so Chef Paul, I think you have to tell us what's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal, I'm Italian. Come on, pasta, the real pasta, but only when I'm making it from scratch. So I have to come to your house and show you how you make it. Very light and fluffy. So,
Wow.
being in South Florida, Miami, we have it's so hot. So we do a lot of tarditos and ceviche, and I made some ceviche for my client this morning from some grouper. But it's all seasonal. They always say seasonal vegetable seasonal, but it's always hot. So we try to do light and very healthy salads. But we do twist on things. So very simple flavorings. That's the thing. It's not too warm, cold down here. So we don't do too many hearty dishes that, that also with digestion too. And as a chef over 20 years, even for me, digestion is very important. What I put in my body and less acidic things and more neutral flavors because of tasting thousands and thousands of meals over the last years, it catches up with you. And even though I was a superhero when I was in my 20s, it doesn't actually happen when I'm in my mid 40s now. So, but yeah, just healthy, fresh ingredients and switching it up. That's the thing. Switching your diet every day, not eating the same thing.
Awesome. And we have a comment from Facebook. Sandy Steele says she thinks her kid must be Italian too. So I'm assuming Sandy Steele's child loves pasta as well. Who doesn't? I mean,
Yeah, right.
it's good stuff.
The question is, will they
I've
like
even,
pasta when they do cauliflower?
well, maybe if they cook it like Chef Paul, that's the way to,
Just don't tell them
introduce
it's
them to a
cauliflower.
different way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, with kids, you have to make them taste first before you tell them, and before they eat it, you have to throw some cheese sauce on there and try to get in their vegetables. But people eat with their eyes, so.
Absolutely. And again, I want to take this moment to thank everyone who has joined us thus far. This is the first part of a 4-part series. We'll be back again 3 more times with Chef Paul. He's going to be taking on a few more recipes with us, including there's a dessert one that's going to be part of the series. I invite everyone, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, you can follow AARP at Love Where You Live SoFlo. That's where we kind of have a community of people from South Florida, and we share info on AARP, or we just share cute pics of my pup. When I met Chef Paul and we exchanged Instagram, I said, yeah, I apologize ahead of time because my Instagram is full of puppy pictures. And he proceeded to show me his puppy pictures. So I'm like, okay, I'm in good company. So I invite you all to join, and I invite you all, if you have any questions, this is a time now to ask. So I invite you all at this moment in time that if there's any more questions on YouTube or Facebook, that you can go ahead and ask, because if not, I'll keep on asking questions for myself. And
we can talk about dog food too. We can make dog food.
Actually, it's funny you should say that. I have my I'm hoping my future sister-in-law, my future daughter-in-law, I should say, not my sister-in-law. She actually makes a soup, and that's a comment. That comment you made about when you're blanching your vegetables or you're boiling vegetables, that stock. I mean, not only is it good for humans, it's something that's, you know, also pretty healthy and good for our
For
pets
your
as
pets.
well, if, you know, as a soup. And he's learned how to eat carrots with me. I would just give him like, you know, raw carrots, and he loved the crunch, but he learned to love boiled carrots as well.
Yeah,
And they
no,
were
I mean,
softer. And so I would suggest that, you know, people, before they give any human food to their dogs, that they always look to see what dogs are able to eat. But if you have any tips on that, now's a good time.
are you asking me or the people?
No, I'm asking you. You have a pup. Do
Yeah,
you give him
yeah,
any of?
no,
Do you?
and
What kind of
it's
human food do
funny
you give
with
him?
my dog's name's Bella. It's an English sheepdog, Doodle, and for it's funny because people buy food online, they see commercial stuff, but it changes. And for 1 year, my puppy had stomach issues. So for the first year as a chef, and even if I wasn't, I cooked all the food. Everything was from scratch. There was no dry food. It was all boiled chicken and vegetables, spinach. I mean, it was the real deal. It was a production, and and me being a chef, I wanted to produce it and freeze it, so I wouldn't have to do it every week. So once a month, it was like a 40-pound production of dog food. But and that was great for the first year. But then the dogs changed their mind, and the stomach problem went away, thank God, because of the the whole food or the food I was cooking. But it switched its diet actually. So now it's eating like salmon or something else. But and we still haven't. For me personally, my dog doesn't. We don't do the meat because even as humans, it's hard to digest meat every day. We don't give our dog meat. It's always ground vegetables, chicken, and also for a tip for pet owners, when your dog or animal isn't feeling well, you can always just use a little bit of that stock we were talking about with a little bit of sweet potato, canned sweet potato, or just boiled simple rice in the bag or regular rice as a meal substitute. And you don't have to have any meat product in your meal for the dog. And the dogs love a little, we call it doggy detox for the dog. So always plain, simple foods. It's the same thing with humans when they're eating and they don't feel well. You can always have a little, we call it embrodo, which is like chicken stock or vegetable stock with a handful of rice in there, cooked rice. And it's always eases the stomach down for your digestive system.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, that's so helpful. So,
Yeah.
Chef Paul, I just want to say this was so much fun. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping things up for the first
Beautiful.
session. I think this was awesome. We had a lot of good responses from Facebook of people saying this was great. They want to go back and look at the repeat of the initial. Some people joined late, so some people want to use the replay to watch what you did initially. But I just want to say thank you and welcome to AARP and welcome to AARP Wellness Mondays.
Thank you so
And
much.
we'll see you next Monday at 2 p.m.
Next
Can you
next Monday.
share what we're going to be cooking next Monday?
Can I? Is it a secret, or are we cooking the? I have to look because I'm doing so many Zoom calls now that every week is a different Zoom. So I have to make sure I'm saying the right recipe. But I believe we're doing the turkey burgers next week with the
All right.
avocado.
Folks will just have to
So
tune in. So check us
yes,
on Love Where You Live SoFlo on Facebook, and you'll find out what's next, what's going on next week, and what ingredients you may need if you want to cook along with Chef Paul. And everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
thank you. Bye bye.